How to have a confidence awakening. How to go from being paralyzed with fear to becoming practically unstoppable. I want you to play along with me here for a minute, if you will. Imagine that there's a burning car 20 feet in front of you with flames just beginning to lick out from underneath the bonnet. And I say, go up to it and grab it on the bottom of one side and try to lift it a foot off the ground. Now, how confident are you going to be that you could do that and not get burnt in the process? I mean, be honest with yourself, a little bit hesitant, right? Now, imagine that there's a child trapped underneath the car, and the car needs to be lifted up a foot off the ground within a few minutes in order to free the child before they perish in the flames. How confident are you now? Are you even thinking about confidence? Or are you just rushing over there to try and free the child without even thinking? As this video progresses, it will be revealed how this imaginary scenario ties in. But first, we're going to answer, what even is a confidence awakening? And to answer that, let me briefly tell you a little bit about my journey. As an in-betweener in school, bang smack in the middle of the social pecking order, I was definitely complicit in making a few insensitive jokes here and there about others. But I never quite understood how people could be violent. And being on the receiving end of quite a few flying fists and plenty of name calling obviously didn't do much for my confidence. And neither did never having a girlfriend through the entirety of school. And of course, this all bled through into my 20s, which I spent many years of worrying what everyone thinks of me, often anxious in the back of my mind about saying the wrong thing, or getting messy at parties and then having full-on panic attacks the next day over whether I'd said anything to really mess my life up and have me socially excluded forever. I vividly remember one time when me and my partner used to run club nights here in Bristol. Well, I'm in Weston-super-Mare, but over there in Bristol, I used to be so anxious about getting people through the door, enough of them to break even. And on the evening of one of the nights, I took 40 milligrams of Valium in one go, which you should obviously never do. And it's enough to knock people out. And yet I didn't even feel it. I didn't even feel a tinge of effect. And I was on the front desk for hours, white and clammy and sweaty, with my heart pounding out my chest. But I battled through. I tried, to improve my confidence over the years. I tried to take courageous strides forward despite all the anxiety. But it was draining. Incremental steps just weren't enough. I needed a shift, an entirely new perspective. So I think about this shift as what you could call a confidence awakening. A confidence awakening is when you understand and integrate a set of realizations that set you free from mountains of anxiety and worry and propel you towards unstoppable confidence. Now, am I the most confident person in the world? No, far, far from it. There are many things that I could be a lot more confident towards. And the path towards progressively more courageous action is one you can walk for your entire life. But I can tell you, life is very different now and much more pleasurable. Now I'm not worrying about what everybody thinks of me all the time and procrastinating on taking action on the things closest to my heart because of it. Now I have the confidence to date people without my heart pounding as they arrive, to comfortably talk to anyone and easily make new friends, knowing not all of them, but some of them will like me. To create videos in the knowledge that some people will hopefully get value from the content and be unconcerned whether anyone else thinks it's a stupid idea. To coach people one-on-one, knowing my intention is to serve them at the highest possible level and to take consistent strides towards the visions I can see in my mind's eye, the ones that many people would think are outlandish, foolish, or crazy. And the majority of that shift came from a set of realizations that all work together. Realizations that helped me, which I want to share with you in the hope that they'll help you too. So what are they? The first realization that you really have to integrate to have a confidence awakening is people usually aren't thinking about you. It seems kind of sad on the surface, but actually it's liberating. Yes, of course, people talk about others and have their judgments, but think about it. What are you thinking about most of the time? Are you constantly obsessing over how terrible or embarrassing someone else is? No, you're usually thinking about yourself, your own concerns, how to meet your own needs and your own hopes and your own dreams. And that's what nearly everyone else is doing. Of course, it doesn't mean that people don't have deep love and concern for you. It just means that when you said that thing you thought triggered a super awkward moment when you were on that date one time, they probably just forgot about it the next day. It means that work colleague you're imagining is thinking terrible things about the presentation you stumbled over last week, probably moved on ages ago and is instead worrying about the health of his father. And it means that random acquaintance you're imagining is thinking you're a fool for trying something new and going out the box and putting yourself out there, probably hasn't even given it much thought and instead has spent most of the time worrying if he'll ever get a girlfriend or be single forever. Realizing we have our own concerns that usually take priority takes the pressure of feeling like we have to maintain an unobtainable fantasy of being permanently faultless. And realizing this helps us to take more confident action without the crippling worry of being constantly judged by everyone. The second realization to have a confidence awakening is there will almost always be more opportunities. Now, of course, this doesn't mean that you don't give things your best shot. There may be times that, you really need to knuckle down and focus on something that could be a complete game changer if you intelligently prepare for it and attempt to perform at the highest level. But usually, it's not the last opportunity. It's not the last door to close on your dreams. Given some time, there'll almost always be another chance, another job interview, another audition, another date. And sometimes what first appears to be a failure, a dead end, an insurmountable obstacle, will turn out to be one of the keys you needed to unlock the door to your desired destination. So the third realization to have a confidence awakening is that laughter is bonding. Because many of us with social anxiety go into situations solely concerned about how we can be appealing to the other person. Who have I got to be? What have I got to say or do to make them like me? But if you're what's called self-entertained, the problem isn't what can I do to make them like me? Now it's a case of what can I do to bring laughter and joy to this situation? If the other person laughs with you, you've shared something nice, right? And if not, no worries, you've had fun. The value that you often think you need to project isn't the thing that makes people warm to you the most. It's the vibe you're giving off. It's the lightheartedness, the laughter, and the ability to laugh at yourself. And the ability to be self-entertained, which will make your confidence shine. So of course, that doesn't mean you need to be mocking everyone or picking on everyone for giggles. It doesn't mean that everyone will warm to you. And there are, of course, some situations where giggling the whole time won't pay off, like job interviews. But even those types of situations are warmed up and often have better outcomes with an appropriate amount of joviality and joking. And when you're self-entertained, people often want to be a part of that world because they can see the joy and freedom and lightheartedness in you, and they want to experience more of those things themselves. The fourth realization to have a confidence awakening is absolutely everyone gets hated on. And the more well-known you are, the more negativity you'll have directed towards you, which, with the right level of awareness, will bounce right off of you and simply feed the fire that burns inside of you. Let's take a random person out of the hat. Joe Rogan, a pretty self-assured guy. He has his haters. Eckhart Tolle, who could hate on softly spoken and kind-hearted teacher of presence, Eckhart Tolle, right? Wrong. I've seen whole blog posts dedicated to accusing him of manipulating people and running a cult. Even the national treasure and voice of nature, David Attenborough, rest assured there'll be people who have a problem with him. So of course, this doesn't mean that we need to be polarizing people for the sake of it. And it doesn't mean that we shouldn't listen to constructive feedback from those who really do have our best intentions at heart. Getting negative feedback can be really powerful so we can improve and evolve. But it means that haters and trolls are unavoidable for those with the courage to try and make a positive impact, and liberation comes from accepting that. The suffragettes had their haters. The slave liberators had their haters. And if you get any significant amount of people interacting with your business or creations, despite your best intentions and best efforts, you'll get them too. So don't ever let it stop you. The fifth realization to have a confidence awakening is competence breeds confidence, but you can also be confident that you're at least trying. It seems obvious, but to think of how many times you got nervous over something that you just needed more time to practice at. Whether it's hard skills, creative skills, or social skills, you don't have to worry about failure if you redefine success as taking consistent steps towards your desired outcome, even if you die before you arrive at them. So avoid measuring yourself against unobtainable standards others have set only because they've practiced more than you, and instead consider how you can enjoy the process. Sure, maybe you can't be confident that you'll succeed or perform at the highest levels right now when there's a skill gap that needs filling before that happens, but you can be confident that just by simply trying, you'll always be learning and growing, no matter how many mistakes you make or whether you get to your desired outcome or not. The level that you can reach in your own learning and growth runs in tandem with how much you're willing to make mistakes and get things wrong, because they're inevitably going to occur along your journey. And if you're learning and growing and playing along the way with good intentions, with a view to deepen your level of consciousness in the process, that's all that really matters. The sixth realization is you'll eventually look back on past events with completely different eyes. Without sounding too morbid, imagine yourself on your deathbed after many years have passed. Do you really think that embarrassing event or worry will have the same significance that it does now? No, of course not. When older people are asked what they could have done differently, they often say they simply wished they had worried less. What seems like negative, significant events now can be any number of things tomorrow, from absolutely no longer a concern to a valuable lesson. The seventh realization is self-doubt is dissolved when you remember who you're trying to serve. This is where the imaginary scenario at the beginning of the video comes in. If there's a burning car to lift, there's huge self-doubt. If there's someone underneath to save, self-doubt is irrelevant, and the only thing that matters is your attempts to help. Even if you're unsure right now, you probably have in your heart something that you want to do, some way in which you want to positively contribute to the world in your own way, because the awakened self in you can see problems that can be solved, joy to be created, or suffering in the eyes of others that can be helped to be alleviated with positive action. And it's easy to get lost in the practicalities, the successes and the failures of the moment, whether you're any good, qualified enough or skilled enough. Whether it's perfect, whether the font's right or the color's right or it all matches up, or whether you've got enough followers or subscribers. And then the self-doubt starts to creep in. But when you keep in mind the people or the animals that you're trying to save or help, remembering how they could needlessly suffer more if you don't step up, or remembering why you got into this in the first place, why you started creating, remembering what people might miss out if you don't share your creations. The self-doubt begins to dissolve. The eighth realization is everyone has something to give. Even if you think you don't, even if you think you're insignificant, you're not. Just the fact that you're an individual with your own lived experiences is valuable to someone, and whoever you are and whatever you've experienced, even if you've made loads of mistakes, you can help others to avoid them. Wherever you're at, you'll always be one step ahead in some way to those who haven't lived what you have, and you can often help just by sharing your story. You'll always be a different perspective to help others see different perspectives. And aside from anything you could offer on a practical level, just learning to become present and aware in the here and now promotes awareness in other people that creates ripple effects outwards and helps to liberate the world from psychological suffering. Because that's what the ninth realization is all about. You are liberated from the worry that's crippling your confidence when instead of being lost in the thoughts that create it, you become present to the moment now. All the other 8 realizations have been incredibly important on my journey to greater confidence. And if you really want them to help you, you really have to let them sink in and understand them on a deep level. And you can play this video again to help remind you. But none are quite as important than this foundational realization. The confidence crippling worry and anxiety comes from being identified with a mind-made self that tells a story about you but isn't essential to you, because you are way, way deeper than that. Deeper than the thoughts that you often take seriously and take to be you. Peace is found in the present moment by becoming deeply intimate with the life that you have in front of you prior to the thoughts that you have about it. And peace is found by realizing your essential nature as pure awareness. And out of that peace comes true confidence, because you know nothing can ultimately harm what you essentially are. And I'd love to go into more detail right now about this topic, which I go into in many of my videos, and which I'll be making more videos completely dedicated to soon to really flesh out this foundational teaching. But I hope what I've shared with you so far has helped. And if you want to be part of going deeper on this stuff so we can all raise our level of well-being and create more of what we want in our lives and positively contribute to the world, don't forget to subscribe, and of course, hit that notifications bell so you don't miss out on any videos helping you with conscious personal growth. Peace.